Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. Claus. How are you doing on this fine Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific time?
It is a gorgeous and balmy 13 degrees outside, Canadian Celsius. Overcast, dreary, wet. It is a beautiful summer day, spring day here in Seattle today.
Isn't that normal for Seattle? The
It's
dreary
definitely normal.
gray?
I was looking on the news, and it looks like Bellevue get like a tornado in Canada overnight? Do you know about that?
There was a tornado warning in Ottawa yesterday.
That's
So,
crazy, man. Like I still get news. I lived about an hour and a half away from Belleville,
Belleville.
in Ontario, and they look like they had literally a tornado rip through there. It tore a solar panel off of the roof of the building. That's a 14-story apartment building. Landed on the ground, trees down all over the place. So I hope you're safe in the Canadas up north, away from all the tornadoes, my friend.
Yeah, we had a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a Derico, which is not a tornado because it doesn't spin; it's just in one direction. But winds of 190 kilometers an hour, or 100, close to 120 miles an hour in freedom units, and yeah, it took away like a whole side of my fence, became a sail. I was
Oh, yeah, that's
coffee in
not
hand,
good.
looking out the window, going, "Wow, this is wild!" And all of a sudden, I see my fence go,
Nice,
gone.
nice. Now, see, here's where I'm going to be checking up on you right now from a technology perspective, because in my monitors, I've got different things like we all do when we're doing these live streamcasts. Is the stream actually live on the YouTubes? Because my window on the YouTubes is saying that it still isn't live yet. It says live in
I
2
am
minutes.
watching it on the
It's
YouTubes.
fine, because I'm just making sure, because I can't see it. So you know what? It's probably my fault because it is too early in the morning for me. But I'm happy to be here, my friend, to support you on this AzUpdate, telling the news to folks for what's going on in and around Microsoft and other
Yeah,
things.
we are new. We are live on the YouTubes, and
Right on.
Paul Jensen and Johnny Chips and Sharon Bennett, Andrew McCallum, Peter Detender are already in the chat,
Oh,
having a grand
nice.
old time.
Peter Detender's in the chat already.
He is.
He's also Seattle time zone as well, so he's an early riser today. Good morning.
That's right.
Right on, man. So what's on tap for today? What did you pick out as being interesting news articles that we should be talking about, my friend?
Well, I went through, and there was a lot of different SQL and database type announcements.
Oh, yeah?
But for our audience, I picked up four that I thought were interesting, and I will let you go first with the first one.
Well, okay, the first one on the list that we chose, so we do the research beforehand. We each kind of like do like rock, paper, scissors on which items we're going to be talking about as it goes through. I won on the first one, so I got to pick the first one, and I decided to pick our good old friend, Windows Admin Center. WAC, as we affectionately call it. The Windows Admin Center for Azure Arc enabled infrastructure. Prasid is a good friend of ours in the show. He's been on chatting with us and doing interviews with us over the years. He's one of the main PMs for Windows Admin Center. That's been there since the days that it was called Honolulu, I think it was.
Yeah,
Project
Honolulu.
And anyway, during the event that we'll be talking about that happened earlier this week, later on the show, the hybrid event, he actually announced, or other people announced, that he was demoing the concept of the Windows Admin Center that happens to be Azure Arc enabled, that allows you to manage your infrastructure. So for those who don't know, Windows Admin Center, it's a free download, provided you have a license for Windows Server, most recent version, you're licensed to be able to use it. You can install it on individual machines. You then web browse over to that machine, configure it to go off and do things. Well, the new version that they have now available for Arc-enabled infrastructure is actually done through the portal on the Azure portal. And so long as you have a Arc-enabled agent, sorry, it's not an agent, Azure Arc-enabled system, that you want to go off and manage that happens to be on premises or in somebody else's cloud, doesn't matter which one, you can now connect up to it and manage it with the Windows Admin Center interface without having to have a dedicated box that's running it. So it's in the portal, it's in Azure, but then you use the ARC connectivity that you get to your multi-cloud environment, both on premises and in other people's clouds, other hyperscale cloud providers, to be able to go off and manage it. No VPN required, no HTTPS content going through these different connections, that sort of stuff required. You simply are a matter of going in and using the ARC infrastructure to go down and to manage that box. So I think that's kind of like the easy button that you can press to go off and manage some infrastructure.
Yeah, actually, the if you go down to like simplicity and convenience, which I think are key here, so you don't have to like to deploy it, you don't have to set it up, you don't end up with the authentication headaches of connecting to that server, providing that credentials, connecting to that server.
The second paragraph right there is probably what kind of sums it up for me. By default, Azure Arc provides you with the essential elements to manage your infrastructure. Centralized security, governance, monitoring, policy. Now with a one-click experience, it's all set for you to be able to go off and use it. So now the way I like to frame Windows Admin Center and into the way that you go off and manage your systems, obviously you manage your systems at scale. You're using PowerShell to automate things. You're trying to make things so there's less things you have to use a GUI environment to go off in the touch, or you're managing them inside the Azure portal, or if you happen to still have a cloud-connected version of System Center, going off and managing things in that way. I use Admin Center to go through and to do more in-depth diagnostics and troubleshooting on a specific box. I'm not going to go off and touch all 100 of my domain controllers with Windows Admin Center if I'm trying to do something in those individual boxes. But I can holistically look at the boxes, or I can drill in to look and then pop out again, drill in to look and pop out again. That's kind of how I frame my Admin Center stuff.
Yeah, I like the Admin Center, the overview, because it gives you a bit of a top-down view of the health of your servers, and you can check like the event logs and stuff like that without having to remote into each of them. So as I mentioned in the post, our DP2 server is great. However, I prefer to do everything remotely, like RSAT or WAC are my friends.
Yeah. The last thing about Windows Admin Center that I'll mention is simply that our good friend, who is now on a different team, Thomas Maurer, I do believe, did an interview with Prasid, not too long ago, with the old Azure on blog format, and published it inside one of the blogs. So good info in there. Go take a look. And I noticed that
it's on our YouTube. So if you're already there, please like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe to the channel. And, notice how he's taken on a hat persona as well.
I noticed that.
Just thought I'd call that out. Trendsetter, hats, good fun.
Yeah, but his hat is more of the paperboy hat.
The newsy. We'll call him a newsy.
The newsy.
Thomas Newsy Maurer. I will point out in the chat there, I just noticed there from Peter the Tender that the WAC extensions don't potentially load without signing in with your Azure credentials. Again, interesting. I haven't actually gone in and verified something like that, but something to watch out for. The documentation is obviously heavily slanted towards existing editions. This one's just brand new and out and released this week. So probably a little bit of catch-up time required for some of the specifics, but good point out there, Peter. Appreciate it.
Yep, and I'm sure somebody on our team will run it through its paces and put a blog about it.
You got it. I'll add a task to your list, my friend.
Okay. All right.
What do you got, buddy? What do you got?
Next is generability of the Azure Bastion IP-based connection. I am really happy with this one. As I mentioned, we had the storm a couple weeks ago that's in the power fluctuation that caused my Edge device to fry. So I've replaced it and with a machine now that I can now actually have a site-to-site VPN to my demo environment. All of my servers here under my desk, because we're IT people, we have servers under the desk, are now ARC-enabled servers. They're connected to my environment, but with Bastion IP-based connection, you can create your Bastion server, Only works for standard SKUs. So if you're on a basic, you upgrade to standard. When you enable a private IP, when you go to the connect to the Bastion server, you say connect, it'll ask you which IP address you want to connect to. So I can say from my network in Azure, which is like at 10.0.0.0/24, I can say, okay, 192.168.block, blah, blah. Not that I want to promote my IP addressing scheme at home. And it'll actually go through the site-to-site VPN and remote desktop into one of my machines at home. Then again, not promoting RDP as a management style. However, there are some times where you don't have a choice. If you're installing something that only has an MSI that you have to install, or whatever you need to do on a server that you can't do remotely, this is a great way of gaining access to all of your machines, whether they're on your VNet where the Bastion server is, or if they're in a peered network. So if you've got your VNet in, I don't know, Canada East, and you've got another VNet in US West, and those VNets are peered, you can actually go through the peered network connection and through one Bastion, so you don't have to deploy one in every location.
Right.
Connect to all of your machines. Now,
that's cool.
Right now, it's still only IP based, so you actually have to know what the IP address of the machine you're connecting to. We've already talked to the product group. There are some stuff that they're thinking about. Hopefully, this will get better. But
you got it. And and just because you mentioned the RDP piece, for our friends that are not using RDP, that are instead using SSH to manage Linux boxes as well, Bastion's functionality of being able to do a SSH connection to those individual boxes still works as well too. So it's not necessarily it has to be RDP, but that's the primary thing people use it for. So cool stuff, man.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Cool stuff. Well, you and I are both old-fashioned. You can tell by their beards, gray hair, stuff like that. We're old-fashioned admin folks that have been doing stuff sometimes far too long. And so occasionally when we get into troubleshooting things we have to get into, you go down to the packet layer to be able to go off and to see what's going on in between individual hosts, to do some analysis and troubleshoot some stuff using Fiddler and other stuff like that, to be able to go off and to see what's going on. One of the things that you can do in Azure that you can have for your design of how you're going to be making something work, if you're using images of full VMs, because you haven't made the transition to start using containers and deployable containers and stuff like that, is something called virtual machine scale sets, or VMSS. Virtual machine scale sets are identical images that are managed as one. VM is managed as one, doing specific roles, if this is part of your network design. Well, if you're looking at trying to do like a health monitor, or are these boxes working kind of a monitor, you normally would be doing a network watcher connection to those things. And that network watcher has been around now for a couple of years at least, if I remember correctly. And there inside the Azure portal, you can create a network monitor resource. You can then go in and identify endpoints you want to go off and manage, choose the port you're looking for, choose the frequency. Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? Put all those good kind of things in there, and then have it automated. That just goes off and works. Well, the thing that's now new for this is it now supports targeting a whole scale set as opposed to individual boxes. Because, it would really suck having to put in network monitor connections to all 5,000 nodes if you had, for some reason, a 5,000 node scale set.
Not only
you wouldn't
that,
want to necessarily go off and do that.
Not only that, is a scale set by definition can grow and shrink.
Right.
So if you don't know how many you're going to grow to,
you end up with a little bit of an issue. So basically now available inside the portal, when you're making and defining your scale sets, so your network monitoring resource, you can now go in and target a scale set, and it will automatically go through and set up the endpoints monitoring piece that will then go in and distribute itself across the size of your scale set as it grows and shrinks. I remember I had a really cool demo that a friend of mine made, who was one of the PMs for scale sets, that had a graphical representation of the status of those individual boxes with like little green circles and things like that. And then as you went and grew from 10 to 1,000, you would see all these little green things popping up. I got to see if I can dig up that demo someplace. It was a good way to go off and look at it. But at least now, from an actual use case scenario of a production environment for monitoring, now I can just go in and use the network monitor support for the virtual machine scale sets capability and target my scale sets and protocols, timeliness, is it healthy, is it not healthy, give me the status, and it just goes off and works. So
Yeah, because
that's now available.
It's now available. We, in the old days, actually, I probably still have somewhere in my drawers the Fluke, like Ethernet, that like you plug in the cable and you hit the button and it starts collecting all these packets and tells you all of that. It's kind of hard to do that in a virtual network.
Amen.
Where do you plug in the Fluke?
Welcome to 2005. Cool stuff, man.
Yeah. All right. So next one, the next and the last one for today. I have a question for you first. Do you know of any enterprises that would have like super critical systems that need to absolutely be trusted and absolutely be completely?
I mean, it's not necessarily something for every single organization, but when you've got use case scenarios and you're looking for something to work like this, previously you'd have to do it on trusted hardware, on premises. You know, it's all there. It's got all the Intel bits loaded into it and trusted computing and confidential computing, stuff like that. That would all have to be in there. But I know that we have it available on the Azure side of things as well. That's okay. Yeah, this one. Yeah, you've got this.
Yeah. One. So now we have trusted launch for VMs. With trusted launch is it's a term that collects a whole bunch of different technologies like secure boot, TPM, virtual TPM, all kinds of different technologies to ensure that your machine is the attestation of your OS. So nobody can actually kind of grab a hold and inject something into your OS that would make your machine compromised, but that would also not be picked up by an antivirus of some kind. So rootkits or stuff like that. Now with trusted launch, you have all of that's already available, but now we do support ephemeral OS disks. So basically what that means is you have an image of your disk when that machine starts, and basically it's like a copy of that image gets mounted either in your VM temp drive or in your VM cache. So it actually runs with the VM, but when you shut down the VM, whatever's in that machine or whatever's in that OS drive does not get written back to the storage account. So even if it did get compromised, so if you made this into like a honeypot or something, when you shut it down, it doesn't write the OS back. So when you start it again, it gets a fresh new copy of that ephemeral OS disk and mounts it again. So it's perfect for stuff like stateless type of application where you have a number of nodes in your VM scale set, for example, that are using this image of OS very, very quick to start, and because it doesn't have to write it back to the disk, it runs in memory or like while the machine is running, and then makes your machine so much more protected from all of the bad things that could happen to your machine.
Very cool, man. It's now available for GA. It's been a preview for a little while.
Yep.
And it's been running and going. I personally haven't actually had the instance of creating something like this. Again, the snares that I've been working with don't actually call for it, but it's good to know that we continue to bulk up the stuff that we're making available for some of our customers that do require an extra layer of security that they can then go through and have audits to trust whether or not it's up and working. And it's available inside the hyperscale cloud. So very, very cool stuff. It's now available for GA across all public regions inside of the Azure space.
Yes. So security, we're there.
Nice, man. So, you know, we've been talking about the new stuff, but there was an event that took place that you and I were in the background helping out with earlier this week. And that was the hybrid event for multi-cloud and edge day if you will. Now, we have the link inside the show notes on the blog post to be able to go to, but it's, Azure Hybrid Digital Event.microsoft.com. It just rolls off the tongue. You have to go there.
It's wonderful. We're great with naming URLs.
Oh, I know. It's it's fantastic. Anyway,
like
if you go to the link inside of the environment that we have on the blog post on itopstock.com, you have to still register to attend the event, even though the event is done. Now, once you've registered, you then are able to have access to all the on-demand videos that you can play back at 2x speed if you wanted to, or back at regular speed, your call. But the part that I want to call it for this one here that you and I were helping out with was, we were doing Q&A questions and answering stuff in the background during the live keynote portions of stuff. But a little bit further down on the resource page, like you have up on the screen right now, you can see a series of 5 different, well, technically 4 different plus the main one, if I remember correctly, 5 different on-demand sessions that have the next level of depth of content, because this is an event and it does have some good awareness material that's out there. But to go the next level of depth that's in there, you'll find a number of different sessions you can go off and watch on your own time. From some of our good friends that you may recognize. I think even Thomas managed to sneak himself in there at once. But the main speakers and the main event that you saw that we were helping out with, you can see there, we had all the execs, the VPs that were there. Our good friend Aaron Chappell, Roanne Soames was there too. Andrew Conway came in and talked some security stuff there too. Jeremy Winter took a brief little visit as well, doing some stuff on the Azure Arc side of things. So lots of cool stuff in there, but I would pay particular attention to the on-demand sessions that were recorded and available if you scroll down the page to find those resources for those extra ones. That's the main thing I want to call out for that particular event.
Yeah, and Jason Hansen has a great conversation with actual IT people from Greg's and Wolverine and Millennium BCP.
Yeah,
actually, that's the first one. The first one right here.
Oh, cool.
I
said cool stuff.
Yep. So go ahead and go by and listen to those things. Where's my mouse? Oh, there it is. Too many monitors.
Simplify, my friend. Simplify.
I should simplify. There's something else that's going on this week in terms of community event. There's this little thing called Patch and Switch that I think has a show today.
Oh, yes. Yep. We're getting on to that one there. It's been a while since we've had a show. It's basically a good bunch of fun talking about some stuff. And it's going to be a little bit rusty, maybe not, because our cohort in crime who runs the switcher for us, Steve, the audio guy, a.k.a. Jared Shockley, has already started his RV tour across North America. And so he hopefully has found a stable parking spot outside of Starbucks to be able to get enough connectivity to run the show. We'll find out, because we don't run the show inside of the cloud like StreamYard like we do with this one. It's actually run through his OBS box that he runs off of his RV. It's a little dicey on the stuff. Would you mind being on standby for us, my friend?
I would, but I would be on a plane at that time.
That might be a little bit hard.
I don't think the Wi-Fi on Air Canada in-flight system would support me streaming a show.
Good point. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
Because if you're in Europe, come and see me at the psconf.eu, so the PowerShell conference in Vienna. I'll be there. So.
Did I approve that? I did approve that, didn't I? Wow. I didn't know that was this weekend.
It's
craziness.
Yep.
psconf.eu. That's next
right.
week. What day? Think about it. Think hard, because you're going to it next week.
I think it's Monday through Tuesday through Friday.
There you go. psconf.eu. If you're in town and you've got tickets to go see Mr. Pierre Hamon. I think April.
And if you're in town, if you're around Vienna and you don't have tickets and you want to meet and chat and maybe a meetup,
never know.
Hit me up.
Could be there too. Cool stuff, man. And I believe April's going to that one too, isn't she?
She is.
Nice.
So she'll be coming in on Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, she's got a triathlon race or something like that she has to go to first.
Yeah, I don't move that fast, so
Far too much exercise for me.
And to conclude this episode of AZ Update, we have our Learn module of the week, because learn Microsoft docs.microsoft.com/learn is your one-stop shop for everything in terms of learning the Azure intricacies.
And we're doing the one that is semi-related to the news that we talked about today, which is Azure Bastion, which basically you can go through to connect a virtual machine using Azure Bastion through the Azure portal. This is obviously a little bit dated, but if you've never used Azure Bastion before, it basically walks you through how to go up to it, how to connect up to it, how to configure machines to use Azure Bastion. It's quite nice little walkthrough to get to go through it. 8 different units, really. Yep. 6 different units, because the first one and the last one are kind of like intro and extra type stuff, if I remember correctly. But it's not too bad. Set it up, take a look at it, check it out. Azure Bastion's a good friend of ours. Good way to connect up to your machines, and Microsoft Learn's a great way to go off and to try it out.
Yes, and this one, you say it's a little dated, but there hasn't been that many changes to Bastion since it came out, other than what we just announced in terms of the private IP connectivity with Bastion, which you can turn on, so you don't have to redeploy if you already have a Bastion server. So go through the Learn module, set it up, then turn on the private IP.
Cool.
And you're good to go.
That works, man. That works. And here in North America, I think this weekend is also Father's Day. Is it not?
Is it?
So that's our social banter for the day, folks. Thank you very much. Very smooth and rehearsed, as you can tell. I was going to wish you a happy Father's Day in North America.
Well, happy Father's Day to you too.
You know, I appreciate it. Although most of my kids are away, so it's going to be it's because I noted I mentioned this only because I think in the Paul Jensen mentions here in the chat, sausages and beer with Pierre in Vienna is possible. Someone else mentioned the barbecue time. So I have a brisket that's in my fridge that I'm going to be smoking this weekend with my son, who is here, separating the point from the flat and then turning that into burnt ends inside the barbecue. So that's happening in the Claus household this weekend.
I did that last weekend with 4 pounds of bacon ends.
Oh, very nice.
That was really, really good.
You got it, man. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in and being my co-pilot on this one. And for all of you at home, thank you very much for joining us. Stay safe and join us next week for another episode of AZ Update. Cheers.
See ya.